You're watching Picks on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hi there, I'm Henry Rosoff, and welcome to Picks on Politics Daily. A busy week in New York City and tri-state area politics, of course, dominated by the response to this massive snowstorm and cold snap that followed. Mayor Mamdani facing a lot of scrutiny about the 10 cold weather adjacent deaths that we've experienced here in the city. There have been more outside of the city. We're getting to all of that on Pix 11 News tonight at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock. And we're discussing on the big show, Picks on Politics tonight. On top of all of that, there's been this continued push to expand universal childcare in the city. And that really brings me to my next guest, who can speak to a lot of this, but he uncovered something. He's an assemblyman from Staten Island, uncovered something that really appears to be a threat, might be the wrong word, but a concern as New York City looks to add more and more childcare centers. Let me bring in Assemblymember Mike Tannouis from Staten Island. Assemblymember, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So what did you and your office uncover about the intersection between cannabis shops and nursery schools and daycares that has you concerned?
So obviously we've been, the community, including the community board, has been facing an influx of cannabis applications. And these are applications that are basically have to go through the community board, but they're also basically go through the Office of Cannabis Management. And here on Staten Island, they put an application in for a certain location, Long Island Boulevard, which is a major thoroughfare on Staten Island. And it was very evident to the community board, to myself, to my colleagues as well, that within 50 feet of that location was a nursery school. Which is a very big problem because, as you know, the state in New York, when we passed this law, which I strongly opposed, by the way, for this reason and for many other reasons, even though I did oppose it and it passed, there was an issue because this legislature had a clear intent that they wanted it a certain amount of feet away from a school and a certain amount of feet away from a house of worship. Well, within that range is a nursery school accredited by various agencies of the city of New York. However, they still approved this location. And when we pushed the Office of Cannabis Management to find out why they had approved this location, they said that although they found that this nursery school was accredited within the definition of city law, it was not by definition a school within the cannabis law. So as a result of that, myself and Senator Scarcella-Spanton, who also represents that location, have now put in a new bill into the Assembly and into the Senate that would more clearly define what a school is. And by the way, Henry, in addition to defining more so what a school is and making sure that something like this doesn't happen in the future and that it is recognized under the cannabis law, we also changed the distance. Now it has to be 1,000 feet from a school. It has to be even further for a house of worship, right? And this is the type of issues that we have had because, unfortunately, my colleagues tend to want to be the first to pass legislation. They want to be the first to take credit for legislation that passes, but they don't take the time to actually ensure that issues like this do not arise. And we spend more time fixing things that come out of Albany than actually passing legislation that betters our constituents' quality of life.
Assemblyman, what has the response been to this? Because I understand that you are Republican, and just to be frank, sir, you guys don't have a lot of pull in Albany. But this one seems pretty straightforward. I don't think it seems to break the spirit of the law, if not the letter of the law here. So have you had some openness from Speaker Carl Heastie's office, for example, for examining and looking at this? Because it does seem like something that will need to be addressed, especially as the city looks to add hundreds, if not thousands, of childcare centers.
Sure, of course. Well, just to be clear, Senator Scarcella-Spanton is a Democrat, so she is in the majority. While I haven't spoken to the Speaker's office in regards to this bill specifically, I have spoken to elected colleagues on the Democratic side. And obviously, you just said it, Henry, this wasn't the intent of the legislature. When the legislature passed that law, their intent was to keep a certain amount of distance from the cannabis shops and the schools. And it wasn't their intent to have this mishap where a school can be within this region for this specific reason. So as I'm talking to my colleagues, I'm looking to obviously get the support in regards to this legislation, and I'm hopeful that it will gain support and we could actually fix this issue, because as you said, as we open more daycare centers and more schools, this will continue to become a problematic issue that will affect our constituents.
Let me end here with some thoughts on this redistricting situation that's happening that directly impacts Staten Island and your colleague on Staten Island, Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. You are the chair, I believe, of the Staten Island Republican Party. Your thoughts on this order to redraw New York 11, which would end up effectively redrawing New York 10 and putting Staten Island perhaps with Lower Manhattan, creating a swing district. I know you have some strong feelings about that. We have a little bit of time left here. What do you, in your opinion, thinks folks should know about this lawsuit and this potential redistricting?
So, Henry, as an attorney, as a former prosecutor, I've obviously been following this case very closely. It is mind-boggling to me how the trial court judge was able to make the decision that he has made. Since that decision has made, there's been a lot of publications, including the Daily News, Newsday. The other day, the Wall Street Journal editorial board had basically eviscerated the trial court judge in the decision that he has made. I think anybody that's looking at this lawsuit can recognize this, no matter what party you're in, that this is a grab. This is a type of power grab. They are doing nothing more than trying to diminish the voice of Staten Islanders, and they're trying to steal the seat. And everybody, I believe, that I have spoken to is in agreement with that. So I have every confidence that we will be victorious in this lawsuit. I have every confidence that the Congresswoman district will stay as it is, and that this notion will be rejected. And I, along with the Staten Island Republican Party, and along with the attorneys that are representing the Congresswoman in this lawsuit, will be steadfast to do everything we can in the legal process to ensure that this seat stays the way it is and is fair for Staten Islanders and for the people of Southern Brooklyn.
We'll be watching this one very carefully, and I realize I never stated exactly what the judge ruled, but effectively the judge ruled, as a former staffer for Governor Kathy Hochul, that Black and brown people were being discriminated against on Staten Island, and therefore the district needed to be redrawn. And before you jump in, Congresswoman Malliotakis told me personally that, you know, she is the first Hispanic person to represent the district, and she finds that notion ludicrous. But you go ahead, put a button on it, sir.
I just want to clarify something for you, Henry. First of all, she is the first Hispanic to represent that district. But you know what's mind-boggling to me is that who passed these maps? Who drew these maps? These maps were drawn by the IRC, approved by the legislature, voted for by the Democratic majorities of the Assembly and the Senate. I didn't hear any senator or any assembly member get up when we passed these maps to say that these maps were racist or this district was racist in any way. I didn't hear any of that. And I believe they were unanimous in voting for these maps. So now all of a sudden, the tune has changed. What has changed now? 2 years later? Absolutely nothing.
Assembly member,
pure politics at play.
We're up against the clock here, so I do have to let you go. But thank you for taking additional questions. I know we initially booked you to talk about the very important cannabis discussion we led off with, but news is news and things kept bubbling up. I always appreciate you taking time to answer our questions. You have a good day, sir.
Thank you so much. Great to see you, Henry.
And that'll do it for this edition of Picks on Politics. Of course, you can catch the big show, Picks on Politics with Dan Mannarino. I'll also be on a panel for this show coming up tonight, Friday at 6:30 with a re-air on Sunday morning. But for now, I'm Henry Rosoff, and you have a great day.